Da 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 da. Welcome to disenFRIENDSchised, where we take a Friends episode, pull it apart, and name the grief hiding in plain sight. I'm Bulinski Mathison of TheNakedGrief, and today we're looking at season 1, episode 2 of Friends, the one with the sonogram. So we're going to do this in two parts. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis by character so you remember what's happening, and then we're going to play a game called Name That Grief, where we call out each storyline and what the grief is that they are carrying. So the general logistics of the episode is Ross is still in the immediate wreckage of his marriage ending. An episode ago, we know that Carol moved her stuff out. Ross was rebuilding furniture, rebuilding a life, and trying to act like he is fine. And then in this episode, we actually meet Carol, and she's pregnant with Ross's baby. So now Ross isn't just working through rebuilding his life, he's also reframing what his future is going to look like. His losses are stacking up. His marriage ended, his home life's changed, the identity of husband is gone, and now he's being asked to step into the father inside a story that he doesn't have control over. And then we have Monica trying to get her apartment to be perfect. Monica's preparing for her parents coming over. She's spiraling in her own way, making sure the pillows are just right, that the apartment is spotless, and her dinner has to be perfect. We're starting to get a little more insight into why Monica is Monica. Her perfectionism isn't a cute quirk, it's a survival strategy. And then we've got Rachel. She's still learning how to be this new version of herself, not a fiance, not a bride to be, not the girl with the plan. She has to return her engagement ring to Barry, and she's anxious about it. But then she loses her ring, realizes that it's inside of the lasagna that Monica made, and she starts to feel panic because now she has to return the ring without the ring, and that's going to be so much harder. So it's not just about jewelry, it's about the symbol of the life that she walked away from. So now she's dealing with the breakup, and she's dealing with the betrayal and the humiliation, all locked in with leaving Barry at the altar. We get a little tiny insight about Phoebe's backstory too. Phoebe drops a piece of her story saying that she's got a twin sister, that they don't really get along. And Phoebe's vibe when she explains her sister, well, she's the career oriented one, and explains that her sister's a waitress. And then Chandler doesn't run the plot or anything, but he does drop a couple of comments here and there that tell us exactly how he copes with things. He leans on humor, he leans on deflection, he makes the room lighter when it gets heavy. And those aren't random jokes, those are tells that we'll discover later on about Chandler. So then we have the dinner scene. Monica now knows about Ross becoming a father. We're watching Monica get laid into about all of the things that she isn't doing well, or the stretching of the truth that her parents tell because of the choices that Monica's made. Rachel losing her engagement ring inside of the lasagna makes the lasagna get torn apart, and Monica has to compromise and make a different dinner. So she compromises and makes spaghetti. And when Monica's mom hears, oh, spaghetti, well, that's simple. And we start seeing the dynamic of Monica with her parents. We flash forward throughout the dinner of her dad talking about how, the people that live the longest are the ones without the big aspirations, like you, Monica. Monica's mom saying, yeah, somebody's going to call you because they want to get a job in food service. And I mentioned that you have a restaurant. And Monica interjects and says, no, Mom, I don't have a restaurant. I work in a restaurant. And her mom kind of glazes over it and was like, well, that's what I'm telling people. it implies that they're not as proud of Monica as they are of Ross. So while the conversation is building and Monica's feeling more pressure, she leans on Ross and says, you got to tell them. You got to tell them what's going on with you, the divorce, Carol, the pregnancy. And when it comes out, the parents don't react on Ross. They look at Monica and they go, and you knew about this? And Monica gets in trouble for Ross's life. And that's the dynamic. So, are you able to name that grief before I do? If so, drop in the comments what you think the grief in this episode really is. All right, I gave you a couple of minutes. So now let's play the game. Ross is stacking grief, not just the keep going culture. Ross is grieving multiple things at once, and society teaches him to do what a lot of people do. If it's not breaking you today, you don't name it. You don't talk about it. You just keep plowing forward until one day it just snaps. So Ross is carrying the loss of marriage, the loss of identity, the loss of home or familiar life, the loss of control over how this pregnancy story is unfolding, and replacement grief. There's a new we, and he's not a part of it. And here's what makes it disenfranchised. People treat it like he should just be grateful. Congrats, you're going to be a dad. As if that's just going to cancel everything else out. So when grief stacks and you don't metabolize it, this is the part that people miss. It's not Ross being dramatic or anything like that. It's not even not processing anything. He's doing what a lot of us were trained to do. You keep functioning, you keep showing up, you keep making jokes, and you try and keep moving forward. But later in the series, we all know that Ross spirals. And that stuff isn't random. This is not addressing these moments while they're arising. When that happens and loss keeps stacking upon loss, your nervous system shifts and our reactions change. And these are cognitive behaviors that are instilled in us early in life. And when we don't recognize what these patterns are and work to change them, the way we handle things moving forward can be detrimental to how we proceed and how we get back on track to the life that we want after a loss has occurred, whatever that loss looks like. And what this can look like is when a person says, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then they lose it over something small, like a couch, not being able to get up the stairs, or a comment, or a schedule change. And everyone's confused. But it's never really about the couch. It was just about the pile of stuff building. Monica, the grief of being the unfavorite, and the control that she uses as safety. Monica's grief is quieter, but it's constant. Her storyline is about inadequacy, being the unfavorite child, earning love through performance. Monica learned early that Ross gets the attention. Monica gets the cookies. Food becomes comfort for her. And then later, she coaches herself through that behavior and turns that comfort into a skill. She becomes a chef. She builds competence. She builds her identity around it. She loses the weight that she was putting on by eating the food, by making the food. And that's actually a form of self-coaching. But the cleaning, the pillows, the everything has to be perfect, that's control. It's her nervous system saying, if I can make the environment perfect, maybe I won't be criticized. Maybe I won't be rejected. Maybe I'll be safe. So perfectionism is grief in a tuxedo. Perfectionism often looks like high standards or high maintenance, but underneath it's grief. It's the grief of not being chosen. It's the grief of not being protected. It's the grief of never being seen accurately. And the dinner scene proves that. Monica is doing her best. And the moment something goes off script, she's punished. And then we've got Rachel with her anticipatory grief, the betrayal grief, and the humiliation. Rachel is grieving the life she was supposed to have. Returning the ring isn't just an errand. It's anticipatory grief. It's a funeral. It's her walking up to the old version of herself and admitting that it's over. So when the ring is lost and the panic completely makes sense, and then the betrayal hits, especially once she sees Barry. Barry's got plugs. Barry's wearing lenses. Barry has a tan. She finds out that he went on their honeymoon and brought her best friend and maid of honor, Mindy. So that's even more compounded grief for her. It's not just heartbreak. That's replacement grief. It's humiliation. It's social grief. My best friend chose him. My ex-fiance chose her. The identity grief. Was any of this even real? She doesn't know how long he had been with Mindy. If it was just because she left him at the altar, or if it had been going on before that. She's grieving the fact that she chose to walk away, but he moved on. She has a conversation with Ross the night before she goes to return the ring. And Ross suggests, don't try and look too good. I know that's going to be hard for you, but the man's probably broken. And then she sees him and he's not. And again, that's part of the anticipation. You're expecting one thing and then you get hit with something different. So betrayal creates reality grief. Betrayal grief is brutal because it doesn't just hurt, it rewrites your memory. You start questioning what you missed, what was true, whether you can trust your own judgment. And that's where people sometimes get stuck. Not because they're weak, but because their brain is trying to rebuild a reality. And then even with Phoebe, we don't get a lot from her, but we see some grief history and some groundedness. Phoebe mentions her twin. It's quick, but it matters. And Phoebe often comes off as quirky, but she's probably the most grounded of all characters because of what she shares with us in little drops. We learn progressively about how she's lived on the street, about how her mom's committed suicide, about all of these things that could break most people. And we see her resilience through it. And then she comes up with these profound wisdom statements that come out of left field sometimes, and they're small. And if we miss them, we may have missed the whole moral of the episode. So watch for those, because she's got a huge pattern of recognition amongst chaos. She doesn't always explain it, but she always sees what's happening. And then we have Chandler, who admits that he's got humor as armor. Chandler's humor is not just comedy, it's protection. It's a way to stay connected without being exposed. A lot of people learn early, if I'm funny, I'm safe. And that becomes a coping strategy. Chandler even says, I'm an only child, and I had an invisible friend that my parents liked better. It comes off as funny, but it's relatable to many, where we're still not chosen when we're the only choice. So let's go back to the dinner scene, because this is where the episode quietly screams. Ross finally tells the truth, and the parents look at Monica. And that's a family system. There's a scapegoat manager role that Monica plays. She's the emotional buffer. So even when Ross's life is detonating, Monica is still the one who gets blamed because she knows about it. She doesn't manage it or prevents it. And she doesn't tell her parents about it, even though it's not her place to do the telling. So a coaching moment when her mom goes, "And you knew about this?" That's a grief sentence. Because what it really means is it's your job to manage the family's discomfort. It's your job to keep the image intact. It's your job to absorb the fallout. That's a lot of pressure, and it's disenfranchised grief because nobody says, "Monica, that's a lot to carry. Are you okay? How can I help you through this?" They just punish her for carrying it. So if you want something to take with you after this episode, here it is. Name what's piling up. If you keep saying it's fine, check your own pile. Notice your control habits. Are you cleaning, fixing, perfecting because it's who you are or because it's how you stay safe? Betrayal grief counts. If you're replaying it, your brain is trying to rebuild reality. So that's the one with the sonogram. If this episode hits you in the gut, you're not crazy. You're recognizing grief where people usually pretend it doesn't exist. So, not all grief comes from death. Job loss, career pivots, divorce breakups, empty nests, moving, identity shifts, friendships ending, the loss of the life you thought you have. At The Naked Grief, we offer support communities that meet you where you are without pressure, toxic positivity, or having to explain why it hurts. What you'll get here? A private, judgment-free space to process what's changed, practical tools, prompts, and guidance that you can use right away, multiple styles of support so you can choose what fits and switch if you need to, a path to find your footing, one small step at a time. If you know you need something, but you're not ready for therapy or one-on-one coaching yet, The Naked Grief is the right place for you. There's lots of free resources. There's even free assessments you can take to figure out exactly what you need. Learn more at TheNakedGrief.com. We'll see you next time on Disenfranchised. Da 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 da.